Great to meet you, Peter. Thanks to our mutual friend Philip Beck in China. Welcome and thanks for participating on our Leaders Who Care series.
Great to be here, Mark, all the way from Sydney, Australia.
Beautiful Sydney, Australia. And I think a great way to start would be if you could semi-formally, because we're all at home right now, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then let's chat.
Oh, okay. Well, it's always a long life journey, but the capsule of it is I started work at 14 years in an advertising agency, which eventually became DDB Needham, part of the Needham Harper and Steers in America, was part owner of it eventually, and then became DDB, which is a well-known agency group. I was there for 30 years. The last couple of years as managing director, we launched McDonald's into Australia. We had clients like SC Johnson and Wrigley, quite a lot of American-based clients and others. And so after that time, in 2005, I resigned to start or buy a franchise brand, which had started in the USA called Gloria Jean's Coffees, started in Illinois near Chicago. They, by the time we got involved or introduced to them, or my partner, another guy I knew was a connect leader at church, he said, "Do you want to be involved with this?" And I always liked retail, especially working closely with McDonald's. So we came over, had a look at it. They had 276 stores, which from an American point of view is not really big. And we didn't know over the next few years, they didn't really have much vision, but eventually we agreed and started in 1996. We actually got to close to 500 stores in Australia, which is actually the largest by a long way, considering our population. Yeah. And then in 2005, bought the international rights off them for the world to set out about building it from 15, 16 countries to 39. And we got up to 1,000 stores. People came to us wanting to buy it. So about in 2014, we sold the whole thing to a public company in Australia who had other franchise brands. I can't say they're actually being successful with all their brands now, and including Gloria Jean's Coffees, but not our problem. We've moved on. And now I spend most of my time, all my time, trying to multiply leaders, business people, leaders in churches, leaders generally, to actually impact other people, because I can't do it all. As our chairman of our trust said to me, "You are getting older." I said, I didn't need to be reminded of that. So how are you going to multiply what you're doing in other people? So that's a snapshot.
Well, we by the way, we don't say old or seasoned or senior or dead. Yeah, we call ourselves vintage now, by the way.
Okay, I'll claim that one.
So quick question. Is there a Gloria Jean?
Well, the lady that, there was a lady called Gloria Jean Kvetko, and she was visiting with a family, a quaint little coffee store in Illinois, near Chicago, and loved it. They bought it and they named it Gloria Jean's Coffees. And from there they grew to quite a number of stores, and then a private equity company, or there's actually Brothers Coffee, the two brothers who parted ways after a while. They were in supermarkets. They actually bought it off her, paid her a lot of money, which she couldn't refuse. And then it was then bought by someone else, and then they had several owners, but it seemed to sort of tick along, but not really grow and take over the country. But they were doing specialty coffee before Starbucks had started, but never quite got the idea that it could move outside of shopping malls. Yeah. Which we did. We moved into airports, street fronts, universities, train stations, you name it.
Well, it always amazed me, not to get too far off topic here, it always amazed me about, because I would think of my parents and thinking about, them saying $4 for something called a cappuccino, where they can go to the diner. That's where you used to go, right? You can go to the diner and get a coffee for $2 or whatever, right?
Yeah, or brown water anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's great stuff you're doing. I want to get into it, but starting with the infamous why that people do what they do. But I like to ask it a different way. Why do you do what you do?
Well, I thought, once you'd finished your working life, you disappear over the horizon. No one wants you. If someone told me when I was 20 or 30 years old that at 73, you'd be speaking to people, helping business leaders, helping church leaders, whatever, I would have laughed, fallen off the chair. And God thought people just pension you off, you disappear, no one wants to talk to you. Sometimes I wish that was the case, but when you, so, I sense, in my life, God was saying, you're not going to waste everything you've learnt and the mistakes you've made, and you're going to help other people. So it comes around now. How can I build or multiply other people to influence business leaders, small, medium, large, leaders of any type in the community, to have a bigger, better influence? And it certainly needed, the COVID sort of pandemic type thing is only one. How many recessions in 57, 8 years of working? Man, I've been through a lot of recessions, and there was some pretty severe, I can tell you some very severe ones, and they take years to get over. We don't know how long the pandemic's going to go, and governments are certainly trying to keep things ticking along, but how long can they keep giving money to people? Yeah. Somewhere it's got to come back in the chain. So I'm trying to encourage business people to totally radically rethink their business now, but stay with the vision of where they're going. So that's one thing. The other is, I believe people need a better input in their life rather than Hollywood, with some of the way they portray stuff, or business leaders, negative friends, the media, who only want to create stories and pull businesses down, business leaders down. And I really believe we're here to be successful, to be a blessing to other people. Now, people instantly think of money. Yeah, that can be money, but it is in how we encourage, how we build up, how we help people. And I didn't really understand all this until a few years ago. We had John Maxwell, as would be known to most of your viewers, and he spoke at a Gloria Jean's International Conference, which was actually in Disneyland, in their convention centre. And I remember him saying that when he was younger and no one really knew him, someone said to him, yes, I'm going to support you, I'm going to help you, because I think, you can grow to be an influence one day. And it always stuck with me. And he's always honoured that. So when I put out 2 books, and I'd met him at the conference, and his PA came back to me and said, yeah, John's very happy to endorse your books. So they said, would you write something? So I wrote an endorsement for him. I sent it over. And, when you're trying to write for someone else, you tend to be a bit more vague and non-committal. She came back and said, no, we rewrote it, and it was fantastic. I wouldn't have been gay to ask for that. So I honoured that that's really an encouragement for me to help people.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that's one of the reasons we're actually doing and trademark the term Leaders Who Care, to show that you really can care and make money and do good at the same time. Basically, they're not separate from each other. And we found that it's taken decades really for leaders to understand that they're aligning their brands with social impact, purpose, commitment, is actually good for business. It's definitely good for attracting talent, because people want to work where leaders do care about that. And you've kind of, you've been involved in getting the best out of people, basically your whole life, in scaling businesses, etc. And now aligning people and leaders with purpose, with faith. In fact, we're involved with an organization called the Religious Freedom and Business Foundation, which is about having the safe space to believe in what you believe, or not as well. But we've kind of partially answered this question, but how, with all you've done, how do you define yourself as one of the leaders who care?
Oh, how do I define myself?
Or how do you differentiate yourself? I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear it.
How do I differentiate myself? I've certainly come to the belief that the way I think and who I am actually influences me as a parent, me as a business leader, me as a encourager. And I learned this a little bit in the advertising agency days, that not every, it was all bottom line thinking by some people.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about me by other people. I want to be promoted. I want this. But what I started to learn, that when I ran a department and I actually was interested in other people, so what I thought and how and who I am and what I thought actually came out in the way I dealt with people. I actually cared for people. So if there was an issue in someone's life, I was interested in what that was before we actually got to the issue with the business.
Right.
And I actually believe, if you get enough people in the business, and in fact, someone said, I used to think you need 90% of your people sharing the vision of the business. And I think it might have been John Maxwell, but someone shared that you only need 2 or 3 people to carry the vision, and you can bring other people on the journey and they will come on board and go with you. But putting that aside, I actually think it influences your company and your brands, when you have a different thinking, because the way you allow communication to go out to your customers or potential customers or clients actually is a whole different persona or wording. And people can see that a company cares genuinely. A lot of people have values, they put them up there on the wall, but you go, well, have you actually read those from what you just said? and there's way too much of that. So I think, it actually has influenced me. And what I try to do then is encourage people to be the best they can, not perfect. Very hard to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so if they can be the best they can, they'll actually deliver on a lot of fronts. And that's why I'm encouraged when I look at someone to say, I don't see on their forehead idiot or jerk, but a 10. And it's interesting how people lift to that level when they're encouraged. And I've got a few stories around that. I actually got challenged about 3 or 4 years ago, when I realised that Jesus had a great principle. He trained his disciples, he sent them out, he reviewed with them when they came back, and then he corrected them and retrained them. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with leaders. I've got a lot of young people, they're making a lot of mistakes, and it's easy to chop them off. But I understand that if we keep going and keep encouraging, getting them to think differently, that it's not all about success, because success doesn't really come totally within you if it's only from a monetary point of view, because that can disappear really quickly. COVID can do it, recession can do it, and then they've got nothing. And these are the people that really have issues, they're depressed easily and get fearful. And that's when anger and bad treatment of staff comes out. I mean, we've got a football team here, coach is going through a bad situation. The media and social media is tearing him to shreds because no one knows what the issue is. But the CEO of the football team said, we're giving him the time off. Yes, he's needed here now, but we're giving him the time off because we're a family thinking, business, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was really encouraged by that. And he was willing to say that publicly. And that's how I want to be seen.
I think that's great. I compare a lot of things to sports too. And one thing I found is if a coach stands up for a player, and if the player does something wrong, he tells him, and he talks about it and everything, and he says, get back on the field or get on the ice. We need you. That player will do anything for that coach. And
Correct.
Same way in business, like you say, the best return on investment is to keep that person and show them that way that you believe in them, and they'll perform like crazy because everybody wants to, that's the other thing they talk about, where the thing that fills people's hearts and souls more than anything is belonging
Yes.
to something. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and in Gloria Jean's Coffees, back in 2002, we had a fire that burnt the whole roasting plant and warehouse and office to the ground. We had 92 stores open. And I believe we developed what you just said because the staff stood with us, worked around the clock, rebuilt the business, no store closed. I haven't got time to go into all that now, but through that, we continued forward and opened another 30 stores between early October and December that year, which most people thought we were going to close. The media interviews, you're going to have to close. But it was the team. They didn't own the business. but they locked arms with us.
Well, there's something about the difference between shareholders and stakeholders, right?
Yep, correct. Yes.
And it's a big difference. And I think we're moving in that direction. And in fact, if you think about it, technology is changing like still faster than anything. We've got, as you said, COVID. We've got social, racial injustice. We got more than we ever thought we could handle at one time.
Yes.
And yet, one thing you said really catches my attention. People have had time to think about what's important in their life right now and what you can recover, like in money or whatnot. It might be tough, but there's more to it than just that. And I'm wondering what you think of, what do you think our awareness is going to be as human beings in the future because of the time we've had to think about it, when we're going to be back at work, or we're going to be at home, or we're going to be in our community? What do you think how are we going to act differently? What are we going to be doing?
Well, man, that's $1 million question. But what I tell people is that if you go back to the global financial crisis, and that was pretty severe, but the global financial crisis and starting the growth of social media at that time changed the way we do things forever. A lot of leaders did not get with the program in the sense of understanding the change.
Mm-hmm.
This pandemic it's forced everyone to change, because people now research online. I just got some research or some information that 85% of people are now researching online. Now, that would have grown significantly in the last few months. It wasn't like that. And a lot of company websites and information is appalling, because they bought what I call the $500 website, and it provides little or nothing and no interaction, which people are after. So people now research, they now use credit cards. In Australia, still a large component want to use cash. That's gone out the door, because most retailers and people, well, buying online certainly, but retailers don't want contact. So even for a $5 purchase, they'll take credit card. Before it had to be a minimum of 10 or whatever it was. That's just gone out the window. People are getting home delivery of food that they wouldn't have ever done before.
Yep.
So that has changed. People working from home. Now, there is starting to be some word or information coming out that it's not as, everyone thought everyone's going to work from home forever. You can't say that, because companies are already realising that the interaction between people is needed. Yeah. Zoom is fine, or Skype or whatever it is, but also people have more time on their hands, and how much they actually fully engaged or connected with the job they're doing while they're home. So we don't know how long this is going to last, and how when it's over, we get a something that takes care of it, and it's over. There's still going to be a readjusting by everyone, because they've become accustomed to working the way they're working currently, and they're going to have to readjust to something. Now, it might be I got some people talking about, we're going to still have some people work remotely and some people in the office. So they're actually looking, we can scale office space, we can scale retail space. There's some retailers who are live streaming beauty and fashion shows on Facebook from their stores. They're closed, but they're actually doing live streaming and generating unbelievable sales from it. And that's the creativity. I think that's fantastic. But it actually brings an entertainment, a connection element, being able to, and gyms doing the same, because here you couldn't go to gyms. So they actually started live streaming sessions and putting out videos. And I reckon that's fantastic. So it is going to be different. And what I'm saying to people is, you've got to stay positive. This will end. You can't, and only listen to the authoritative information coming out. Just don't listen to the media and family and friends. Family and friends don't make great business advisors. The ones who've done it, great. But then we've got to get counsel. And I say to them, look for an advisory group. People say, I'm going to start a board so I can get input. Now, forget all that, because directors have got big accountability in this country, and I'm sure in yours. So get some advisors who can input into your business, not necessarily know your business. They'd be outside it. They can come with great ideas. Find a mentor. Find someone outside your sphere of family and friends that can keep you accountable and challenge you. And I just did a podcast yesterday for someone on how do you create innovation in these times, or pivot, as the big word is, as you know, today in the world, pivot. So we're pivoting. I've been pivoting for years, but it's now the in word.
Well, you should have licensed it. That was the problem. You should have licensed it.
Yeah, I should have bought Zoom shares before this started too.
You and me both, because I've been using it a while. Sorry to interrupt, but one thing you said don't believe everything. As much as things have changed, they necessarily haven't. Because I remember my parents saying, "Don't believe everything you read in the newspaper."
Yep, correct. And look, I had a young guy in the global financial crisis come to me and said, what do I do about the global financial crisis? I said, stop watching the news. And he laughed. And I said, 3 months ago, I cut it back because I was watching too much of it, and it was getting inside and was creating angst and fear and doubt. So I stopped. But I said, you've got to replace it with encouraging things. And that's why I encourage people to be positive. And the other thing that's crucial in this time is don't ditch the vision for your business. Mm-hmm. Because that's where you're going. You have no vision for the future, you return to the past. So I said, have that vision, but in this day and age and this issue that we've got now, you have to make radical decisions. So you've got to ditch the sacred cows, in our business that we're protecting, that aren't delivering anything. You might want to bring them back later. You might decide that was the best decision to ditch it. You've got to modify, you've got to do something now to generate that business. And those that have done it have seen phenomenal increases in business.
Well, I saw in one of your posts or whatever, you talked about Churchill never waste a good crisis, or something like that.
Yeah, that's
right. I don't know what you're saying, because from breakdown comes opportunity, or whatever phrase you want to use. A lot of things have been created, invented, discovered during crisis, right?
Correct. Well, I related 27 or 28 companies that started in a recession. Airbnb, for example.
Right.
Goldman Sachs, Hyatt. I mean, you wouldn't have thought a hotel accommodation group would start in a recession. And Burger King, there's 27, 28 of them, and many of the names would surprise. Well, you go, wow, because they look at them and go, they're big, they're going to weather the storm. But hey, they started. And they forget about the companies that started in a garage, like Virgin.
Oh, yeah.
And, a lot of those sort of type companies. Actually, Uber started in a recession as well.
Yep, it did. And, one thing, when you have time on your hands, you can be creative a little bit more, and you're also looking at what can I solve, right? What can I solve out there?
Yep. What's the problem? Or a friend of mine says, find the bruise and hit it a few more times, and then solve the problem.
That sounds familiar to, my arm hurts or something, and you couldn't fix your leg, right? And it's just never right. Arm anymore. Sure. So that's a good line. Real quick then, I like your mindset, your attitude. What do you think business leaders who care about their talent, their employees, their partners, what role do you think business leaders have to play in caring about the financial well-being, the physical well-being, and the mental well-being of their people?
Oh, look, I think it's essential, and it's just part of the balance of everything we do. See, we've been sold the big lie that family and business don't mix. But you've got a problem at work, you'll take it home, and it will affect your relationships. You've got an issue at home, you bring it to work, it will affect you as an owner to your staff and customers. If a staff member brings it in, it affects everything, and you can read on from that. So what I try to do is help people out. If someone was going through a financial issue, if it was gambling or something, that's it's got to be dealt with differently. But we always found ways to help them out. And sometimes, I would have said to a person, whether it was a woman or a man, take your partner away for the weekend on us, and just enjoy the time, because I know they'd been through a tough time. Man, are they loyal after that? That wasn't what I was looking to build. But I mean, and then you've got their partner actually talking glowingly about the company, whereas before they were probably going home and talking down about the owner, the business, and so their partner sort of resented the business or where they worked. Suddenly that all changes, but you're looking after them. The other thing is and it's very hard because some people hide things really well, but trying to find out what is happening in their life that is actually affecting their performance. A lot of people go, I'm going to give you the sack because you're not performing, but you've got to get someone else, you've got to train them up and discover they're not the right person when you've got the right one and they just need a bit of encouragement, help. I remember Pastor Joel Osteen from Lakewood Church. I remember hearing a great story he told. He's in the supermarket and this girl was having a really bad time. People were yelling at her. And when I got there, he said, I asked her, could I pray for her? And she said, yes. And she said, oh, my girl is in hospital. I don't have the money. My partner won't pay for anything. And he was able to sort of get people to help or whatever. But that brightened her day. He said, I saw this smile come over her face. Well, that makes your day when you see someone come alive.
Yeah.
And then, it does affect how they work and what they produce and the result they give.
Yeah.
And then they're more open to come and talk to you if there's an issue in the business where many people want to hide it. So there's a whole lot of benefits that flow out from all this.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And if you have kids and you take that home, that affects their attitude as well, and potentially even their future, short and long term. And then let's face it, it by osmosis goes into the community because they're part of the community.
Correct.
So great stuff. Last quick question, because we're going over a little bit here. If I was a high school graduate, or I'm a graduate, high school, college, whatever, and I'm coming to you and saying, my girlfriend's pissed off at me. We didn't have prom. We didn't be able to celebrate. I don't even know what's going on with the economy. What do I do? What now? What would you tell me?
Well, I would then encourage them. You're going to laugh probably a little bit at this, but I'd firstly encourage them. I'd ask them, where are they going in their life? What do they want to do? And I'd get them to write it on a bit of paper and stick it on their mirror every morning and look at it. And then get them to do a few actions. How are you going to work towards that? Now, is your girlfriend part of that journey? Maybe she's someone who's negative and dragging you down all the time.
Yeah.
What can you do to build her up and encourage her on the journey?
Mm-hmm.
And I then, and this is where you'll laugh, I talk to people about doing a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Yeah. And
write down your strengths and then ask, people and in his case, it's not so much other business associates that I would get you to do, and ask her, what are some of your strengths? and her view, what happens is your strengths grow because we don't always write down all our strengths. And then the other one is opportunities. What are some of the things I could do to be a better partner, a better boyfriend, a better whatever it is? And it sort of takes it away from the face-to-face thing. Mm-hmm. And that creates a bit of paper to be able to sit down and talk about. Now, if she's not interested in any of that, you probably realise she's not part of your journey.
So we've addressed business, faith, purpose, and what to do with your boyfriend and girlfriend in this interview. Yes. That's awesome.
Now, what about the dogs and cats?
Well, they're important because they just love, so we need them. They just bring the love. We can learn a lot from them on love and focus and everything like that. Hey, Peter, thank you so much for participating in this.
No problem. Glad to, be on.